You think you're awake right now. You think the chair beneath you is real, the screen in front of you is solid, that your thoughts belong to you. But what if I told you that an 8th century mystic proved, not through faith but through devastating logical precision, that everything you perceive, including yourself, is a dream inside a dream, an imagination within an imagination, and that you have never, not for a single moment of your existence, experienced actual reality? What if the person you call you is nothing more than a shadow cast by a light you've never seen, living in a world that doesn't exist in the way you think it does? This isn't philosophy for entertainment. This is Ibn Arabi's vision. And once you understand it, you cannot go back to seeing the world the same way. The question isn't whether you're ready for this. The question is whether you can handle knowing that you've been deceived by your own mind since the day you were born. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture your bedroom. See the walls, the bed, the window. You can visualize it perfectly, can't you? Now open your eyes, look around you. What's the difference between what you just imagined and what you're seeing now? You'll say one is real and one is imagination. But Ibn Arabi would ask you, prove it. Not with your senses. They're the ones being questioned, not with your certainty. That's the illusion we're examining. Prove, with something beyond your perception, that this moment right now is any more real than the bedroom you just imagined. You can't, because according to Ibn Arabi, there is no fundamental difference. Both are manifestations of the same substance. Both are dreams. Both are imaginations. The only difference is that one dream is shared and one is private, but neither is ultimately real in the way you've been taught to understand reality. This is where most people's minds begin to resist. We have an enormous psychological investment in the reality of our world. Our identities, our relationships, our accomplishments, our suffering, all of it depends on the assumption that the world is real and solid and independent of our perception. But Ibn Arabi systematically dismantles this assumption, not to make you feel insignificant, but to show you something far more disturbing and far more profound. You are living in a state of profound deception, and the deceiver is not some external force. It's the very structure of your consciousness itself. Ibn Arabi uses a concept he calls wahdat al-wujud, the unity of being. This is often mistranslated and misunderstood as pantheism, the idea that everything is God. But that's a crude simplification that misses the psychological devastation of what he's actually saying. He's not saying that the tree is God and you are God in some poetic, comforting sense. He's saying something far more unsettling. There is only one existence, one being, one reality, and everything you perceive as separate and distinct, including you, is an imaginal form that this single reality takes. You are not experiencing reality. You are a pattern that reality is experiencing through itself. There is no you observing the world. There is only reality observing itself through temporary, illusory forms that it mistakes for separate entities. Think about a wave in the ocean. The wave rises, peaks, crashes, and disappears. While it exists, it has a form, a shape, a temporary identity. You can point to it and say, that wave. But what is the wave made of? Ocean. Where did it come from? Ocean. Where does it go? Back to ocean. At no point was the wave ever anything other than ocean temporarily taking the form of a wave. The wave is not separate from the ocean, but while it exists as a wave, it appears to be distinct. It has the illusion of individuality. Now replace ocean with being or existence or reality, and replace wave with you. You are not separate from reality. You are reality temporarily taking the form of you and the entire drama of your life. Your desires, your fears, your sense of self is the confusion that arises when the wave forgets its ocean. But here's where Ibn Arabi goes deeper, into territory that most spiritual teachers avoid because it's too psychologically destabilizing. He doesn't just say you're connected to reality or part of reality in some vague sense. He says you are khayal, imagination. Not imagination in the sense that you're made up or fictional in someone else's mind. Imagination as an ontological category, a type of existence that is neither fully real nor fully unreal. You exist in what he calls the barzakh, the isthmus, the in-between realm. You're too real to be called non-existent, but too unstable and temporary to be called truly existent. You're a shadow, and shadows, by definition, have no independent reality. They depend entirely on the object casting them and the light source illuminating them. This is not a metaphor. Ibn Arabi is describing the actual ontological status of your existence. You are the shadow of God, cast by the light of absolute being onto the screen of possibility. When the light shifts, the shadow changes. When the object moves, the shadow disappears. The shadow never had independent existence. It was always contingent, always dependent, always a secondary effect of something more fundamental. And you, your personality, your memories, your sense of continuous identity, are that shadow. You think you're substantial because you experience yourself from the inside, but experience itself is part of the illusion. Now your mind is probably screaming at this point, but I feel real. My pain is real. My thoughts are real. This is obviously real. And Ibn Arabi would say, yes, exactly, that's the deception. The dream feels real while you're dreaming it. The shadow appears solid from certain angles. The magician's trick convinces even though it's illusion. The fact that you experience something doesn't make it real in the ultimate sense. It makes it a convincing appearance, and the more convinced you are, the deeper your sleep. Because according to a saying Ibn Arabi quotes frequently, people are asleep, and when they die, they wake up. This life, this entire existence you're experiencing, is a dream. Death is waking up. And you are currently in the deepest phase of that dream, so deep that you've convinced yourself the dream is reality. Let's examine what this means for your daily experience. Every morning you wake up, or what you call waking up, which Ibn Arabi would call transitioning from one dream state to another. You look in the mirror and see a face. You think, that's me. But what are you actually seeing? Light reflecting off a surface, creating an image, which your brain interprets and constructs into a visual experience, which your mind narrativizes into an identity. At every single stage of that process, you're dealing with images, interpretations, constructions, not reality itself, never reality itself, always representations, always translations, always khayal, imagination. You walk through your day interacting with people, but you're not interacting with people. You're interacting with your mind's construction of what those people are, filtered through your expectations, your past experiences, your psychological projections. The person you think you know, your partner, your parent, your friend, you've never actually met them. You've met your imagination of them. You've met the image your mind creates when processing sensory data. And they've never met you either. They've met their imagination of you. Every relationship you have is between imaginations. Every conversation is between dreams. And both parties are convinced they're awake, convinced they're dealing with reality, when actually they're both asleep, dreaming each other into existence through mutual agreement about what's real. This is why Ibn Arabi says that the entire cosmos is imagination within imagination, khayal fi khayal. Reality, true reality, what he calls al-haq, the real, never appears directly. It can't. Its nature is beyond all form, all limitation, all definition. The moment it appears, it does so through a veil. That veil is the form itself. The tree is a veil, your body is a veil, your thoughts are veils. Everything you experience is simultaneously a revelation and a concealment. It reveals something about the real by existing at all, because only the real truly exists. But it conceals the real by appearing to be something separate and independent, something other than the real. Ibn Arabi uses the metaphor of a mirror to explain this. When you look in a mirror, you see your face, but you don't see the mirror itself. The mirror becomes invisible in the act of revealing your image. If you tried to see the mirror directly, you'd fail, because seeing requires an image reflected in the mirror. The cosmos is God's mirror. You are an image in that mirror. God sees himself through you, through the cosmos, through all manifest forms. But in the process of seeing himself through forms, the formless becomes temporarily invisible. The mirror consciousness required for self-knowledge creates the illusion of separation. The real knows itself through you, but in doing so, creates the experience of you as separate, creates the dream, creates the deception. This is the most psychologically disturbing implication of Ibn Arabi's vision. Your entire life, your entire sense of self, exists purely as a mechanism for God's self-knowledge. You're not even a being that will be judged or rewarded or connected to God. You are God experiencing limitation, God experiencing forgetting, God experiencing separation from himself. Your suffering is God's suffering. Your ignorance is God's chosen ignorance. Your sense of being lost and separate and alone is God's experience of what it's like to not be himself. You are God in exile, God in disguise, God playing hide-and-seek with himself so convincingly that he, as you, has forgotten that he's playing a game. But why? Why would reality do this to itself? Why create forms that forget they're formless? Why generate suffering and confusion and the desperate search for meaning? Ibn Arabi's answer is simultaneously beautiful and terrible, because pure unity cannot know itself. The absolute, by definition, has nothing to compare itself to. It has no other, no mirror, no perspective outside itself. For the infinite to know itself, it must create finitude. For the eternal to recognize itself, it must create time. For the absolute to see itself, it must create relativity. You, fragmented, temporary, confused, searching, you are the cost of divine self-knowledge. You are what infinity pays to see itself. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. You cannot escape this. There is no enlightenment that makes you not imagination. There is no awakening that makes you really real. Ibn Arabi is clear. Even the highest spiritual states, even the most profound mystical experiences, even the moment of death when you supposedly wake up, all of it is still within the realm of khayal, still within imagination, still within the dream. The difference is not between dreaming and waking, between illusion and reality. The difference is between dreams that know they're dreams and dreams that think they're awake. The difference is between imagination that recognizes itself as imagination and imagination that mistakes itself for reality. This is what Ibn Arabi means by fana, annihilation. It's not that you become real, it's that you recognize you were never real to begin with. The wave realizes its ocean. The shadow realizes it's nothing but the absence of light in a particular shape. The image in the mirror recognizes it has no existence apart from what's being reflected. This recognition doesn't give you some higher reality. It takes away even the illusion of the reality you thought you had. It's not enlightenment as gaining something. It's enlightenment as the total loss of everything you thought you were. And after fana comes baka, subsistence. You continue to exist as a form, as a person, as a wave, but now you know. The wave still rises and falls, but it knows its ocean. The shadow still appears and disappears, but it knows it's not separate from the light and the object casting it. You still live your life, still have experiences, still feel and think and act. But something fundamental has shifted. The dream continues, but the dreamer knows they're dreaming. The imagination persists, but it recognizes its imaginal status, and in that recognition, everything changes, while simultaneously nothing changes. Most people spend their entire lives constructing an identity, defending a self, pursuing desires, avoiding fears, trying to become something, trying to prove something. Ibn Arabi says all of that is the activity of imagination taking itself seriously. It's the wave trying to make itself more substantial, more permanent, more important than other waves. It's the shadow trying to become solid. It's the dream character trying to become the dreamer. And it can't work. It's metaphysically impossible. The wave cannot stop being ocean temporarily shaped as wave. The shadow cannot become light. The dream character cannot become the dreamer. No amount of effort, no amount of spiritual practice, no amount of accomplishment can make you into something you're not. Because what you are is khayal, imagination, barzakh, in between, neither fully existent nor fully non-existent, and no amount of struggling changes that ontological status. So what do you do with this knowledge? This is where most teachers give you some comforting answer about acceptance or presence or love. Ibn Arabi doesn't. He says something far more uncomfortable. You do nothing, not in the sense of passive resignation, but in the sense that there is no you to do anything. The doing happens, experiences unfold, the dream continues, but the sense that there's a separate agent in control, making choices, navigating life, that's part of the illusion. In reality, Everything is divine self-disclosure. Everything is God manifesting in infinite forms, and what you call your life is just one particular pattern in that manifestation. You're not living your life. Life is living itself through the temporary pattern it calls you. But the ego rebels against this. The ego needs to believe it's substantial, that it matters, that its choices have ultimate significance. And Ibn Arabi says, yes, exactly. That need, that belief, that insistence on your own reality, that's the veil. That's what keeps you asleep. That's the deception. Every time you assert yourself, every time you defend your perspective, every time you insist on being right or important or real, you're tightening the bonds of the dream. You're making the shadow more convinced it's solid. You're making the wave more certain it's separate from the ocean. And here's the cruelest part. You cannot will your way out of this. You cannot decide to let go of ego because the one trying to let go is the ego itself. You cannot choose to wake up from the dream because the dream character cannot choose to stop being a dream. Only the dreamer can wake up, and the dreamer is not you. The dreamer is the real Al-Haq God being itself, and it's already awake, it's you who's asleep. Or more precisely, it's the real dreaming itself as you, and the dream you cannot wake the real because the real is already awake. The wave cannot enlighten the ocean because the ocean doesn't need enlightenment. Only the wave's illusion of separation needs to dissolve. This is why Ibn Arabi's teaching is so psychologically brutal. It offers no hope to the ego. No technique will save you. No practice will make you real. No amount of meditation or prayer or study will transform imagination into reality. Because you are imagination. That's your nature. That's what you are. The only thing that can happen is the recognition of what you already are, which is not a self-improvement, but a self-dissolution, not a becoming, but an unbecoming, not a finding, but a losing of everything you thought you had found. Look around right now. See the objects near you. Feel the sensations in your body. Hear the sounds around you. Notice your thoughts. All of this, Ibn Arabi says, is God's imagination of what it's like to be you. This is God dreaming. And the content of the dream is your entire universe, your entire life, your entire sense of reality. You are not having the experience. The experience is having itself, appearing to itself, knowing itself through the form it's taken as you. The subject and object are the same. The knower and the known are one. The dreamer and the dream are identical. There is no separation except the imaginal appearance of separation. This is what Ibn Arabi means when he says everything is a sign. Everything is a verse in the cosmic Quran. Each thing is a word that God is speaking, and the words form sentences, and the sentences tell a story, and the story is God knowing himself. You are a word in that story, not a significant word or an insignificant word. That judgment itself is imaginal, just a word, a sound, a vibration in the divine breath, a temporary articulation of the infinite. And when the breath moves to the next word, you disappear. Not into nothing, but back into the breath itself, which was always your source and your substance and your reality. But here's what your mind can't accept. This is already happening. You are already dissolving and reforming at every instant. Ibn Arabi calls it tajdid al-khalq, the renewal of creation at every moment. You think you're the same person you were a second ago, but you're not. That person is gone. You're a new creation, a new word, a new imagination. The appearance of continuity is itself part of the imagination. Memory creates the illusion of a persistent self, but memory is just another imaginal form, another wave, claiming to be separate. You have never at any moment been the same thing twice. You are a constantly shifting image in God's mirror, and the only reason you don't notice is because the shift is seamless, like frames in a film playing too fast for the eye to detect the gaps. This is the deepest level of the deception, the belief in your own continuity. You think you were born, you're living, and you'll die. Beginning, middle, end, linear time. A story with you as the protagonist. But Ibn Arabi says, no, there is no timeline. There is only this moment, eternally renewed, eternally fresh, eternally new. The past is imagination. The future is imagination. Even the present moment as you conceive of it is imagination. The only thing that's real is the real itself, and it has no time, no progression, no narrative, it simply is. And you as a temporal being with a story and a history are the imagination of what it would be like if the timeless entered time, if the eternal experienced temporality, if God forgot he was God and believed he was you. So what's the point? If this is all imagination, if nothing is real, if you're just a temporary dream, why does any of it matter? And here Ibn Arabi says something that most people miss. It matters because God says it matters. The imagination is not meaningless. The dream is not worthless, the shadow has purpose. Each form reveals something about the formless. Each limitation shows something about the unlimited. Each moment of separation is how unity knows itself. Your pain, your confusion, your desperate search for meaning. It's all God exploring what it's like to not be God. And that exploration is not a mistake or a problem to be solved. It's the entire point. You're not supposed to escape the imagination. You're supposed to recognize it as imagination while remaining within it. You're not supposed to stop being a shadow. You're supposed to know yourself as shadow while continuing to be cast. You're not supposed to wake up from the dream in the sense of leaving it. You're supposed to become a lucid dreamer, to know you're dreaming while still dreaming. And in that knowing, something extraordinary happens. The dream doesn't disappear, but its hold on you loosens. The imagination doesn't vanish, but you stop being deceived by it. The shadow doesn't become solid, but you stop expecting it to. This is what Ibn Arabi calls living in the barzakh, the in-between. You're neither fully identified with the form, nor fully dissolved into formlessness. You're neither completely asleep nor completely awake. You exist in the space between being and non-being, between reality and illusion, between self and selflessness. And that space, uncomfortable and unstable as it is exactly where human beings are meant to be. Not in the false certainty of I am real, not in the nihilistic despair of nothing matters, but in the paradoxical recognition that you are both imagination and imagineer, both the dream and a dim awareness of the dreamer. Most spiritual teachings promise you something: peace, enlightenment, liberation, love, unity. Ibn Arabi promises you nothing. Or more precisely, he promises you the recognition that there is no you to receive anything, no achievement to be gained, no state to be attained that would make you more real than you are right now. You are already exactly what you are: khayal, imagination, a form in God's mirror, a word in God's breath. The only question is whether you'll spend your life trying to be something else, trying to escape your nature, trying to become solid and permanent and real, or whether you'll relax into the imagination, recognize yourself as the dream you are, and allow the real to dream through you without resistance. And here's where the darkness of this teaching becomes unbearable for most people. You cannot make this choice. The dream character cannot decide to become lucid. Lucidity happens or it doesn't. Recognition occurs or it doesn't. The veil lifts or it remains. And none of it depends on you because you are part of what's veiled. Your efforts to wake up are movements within the dream. Your spiritual practices are imaginal activities. Your insights and realizations are new forms the imagination takes. None of it is wrong, but none of it is what you think it is. It's all God in motion, God exploring, God knowing himself through the labyrinth of forms he's created. So you might ask, then why tell me any of this? If I can't do anything, if there's no me to wake up, if it's all predetermined by divine self-disclosure, what's the point of Ibn Arabi's teaching? And the answer is, this teaching is not information for you to use, it's a mirror. When you look into it, some part of you, not the ego, not the person, but something deeper, might recognize itself, not as solid and real and separate, but as transparent, imaginal, contingent. That recognition doesn't come from understanding the words. It comes from something the words point to, something beyond the words, something that cannot be said, but only known in a way that dissolves the knower. Ibn Arabi wrote thousands of pages trying to articulate this. He used Quranic verses, prophetic traditions, philosophical arguments, poetic metaphors, logical demonstrations. But at the end of every explanation, he returns to the same point. Words are also imagination. Concepts are veils. Understanding is a dream of knowing. Real knowledge, Marifa, doesn't come from reading or thinking or reasoning. It comes from divine disclosure, from God revealing himself to himself through the form of you, and in that revelation, the form recognizes that it has no independent existence, that it's nothing but the real appearing as something other than real, that it's imagination all the way down. This is why the prophet said, "Know yourself and you will know your Lord." Not because you and your Lord are separate and knowing one leads to knowing the other, but because you and your Lord are the same reality appearing in two different modes, the real as such and the real as imagination of itself. When you truly know yourself, not your personality or your history or your qualities, but your actual ontological nature, you discover that there is no self to know. There is only the real knowing itself, through a temporary form it has taken, and that form is imaginal, contingent, utterly dependent, with no reality except the reality it borrows from that which casts it like a shadow. And if you sit with this long enough, if you don't rush to comfort or certainty or some new belief system, something begins to crack. Not your understanding, that's just more imagination, something deeper, the foundation of the illusion, the sense that you are a thing here, in a world of other things. That sense which has driven everything you've done and felt and wanted your entire life begins to waver. Not because you've achieved something, but because you're starting to see that there's nothing to achieve, nowhere to go, no one to become. You're already the imagination you always were. You were never anything else. You were never lost. There was never anything to find. The search itself was the dream. The seeker was the illusion. And in the moment that becomes undeniably clear, not as philosophy but as lived reality, the cosmic joke reveals itself. God wanted to see himself, so he created mirrors. You are a mirror. But in creating mirrors, he necessarily created the appearance of separation, because a mirror and what it reflects appear to be two, and so God, looking at himself in you, sees other, and you, looking out from your perspective, see God as other than you. But there's no actual separation. There never was. The mirror and the image and the one looking are the same reality in different modes. The appearance of multiplicity is how unity experiences itself. The appearance of separation is how oneness knows itself. And you, confused, searching, suffering, you are what God's self-knowledge feels like from the inside of the forgetting. This is not meant to comfort you. It's meant to destabilize everything you think you know. Ibn Arabi's teaching is not gentle. It's a blade that cuts through every illusion, including the illusion that there's someone who needs to be comforted. It doesn't offer you a better dream. It shows you that dreaming is all there is, and then asks, can you live in the dream without being hypnotized by it? Can you be the imagination without forgetting your imagination? Can you be the shadow without trying to become the light? Most people can't. They need their suffering to mean something ultimate. They need their stories to be real. They need themselves to matter in a way that transcends the imaginal. And Ibn Arabi says that need is the core of the illusion. As long as you need to be real, you'll remain trapped in the painful dream of seeking reality. But when you recognize that your imagination, and that's perfectly fine, that even your seeking is just another form the imagination takes, that there's nowhere to go because there's no one to go anywhere, then something relaxes. Not peace exactly, not bliss, not certainty, just a kind of dark humor at the cosmic situation, the wave laughing at how seriously it took itself, the shadow amused at how desperately it tried to become solid, the dream character recognizing the absurdity of trying to wake up. And from that space of dark humor and relaxed confusion, life continues. You still make choices, or rather, choices happen through you. You still experience emotions, or rather, emotions arise in the space where you seem to be. You still have relationships and work and problems and joys, but all of it is lighter somehow, less desperate, less ultimate, because you know. Not with absolute certainty, that would just be another form of ego claiming to know, but with a kind of lucid uncertainty, a recognition that you don't know what you are, that you can't know in any final sense, because the knower is itself imaginal, and an imaginal knower cannot know its own nature from outside itself. So you live in the question. You exist as the not knowing. You breathe as the uncertainty. And paradoxically, that becomes its own kind of certainty. Not the certainty of knowledge, but the certainty of recognition. You recognize the dream as dream without needing to wake from it. You recognize yourself as imagination without needing to become real. You recognize that you're a wave of ocean, and that recognition doesn't make you more ocean or less wave. It just removes the suffering that came from thinking the wave and ocean were separate. This is what Ibn Arabi spent his life trying to convey. Not a teaching you can learn, not a practice you can do, not a state you can achieve, just a recognition that might occur or might not, and even the occurrence is imaginal, and even the recognition is another veil, and even the truth that it's all veils is itself a veil, infinite veils all the way down, with nothing behind them except the real that cannot be unveiled because it has no form to reveal, only forms to hide within. And if this feels like a paradox, like a trap, like a hall of mirrors with no exit, that's because it is. Ibn Arabi offers no exit. He offers only the recognition that there's nowhere to exit to because you're already nowhere. You're already nothing. You're already imagination. And that imagination is all you'll ever be through this life, through death, through whatever comes after, endlessly. The only question is whether you'll continue to be deceived by it, or whether you'll see it for what it is while remaining within it. Most people cannot bear this. They need hope. They need progress. They need the story to have a resolution where they finally become real, finally wake up, finally escape the dream. Ibn Arabi says no. The dream doesn't end. The imagination doesn't cease. The barzakh doesn't transform into pure being or pure nothingness. You remain forever in between, forever neither nor forever, the place where the real looks at itself and says other. That's your nature. That's your fate. That's what you are. And strangely, impossibly, when you stop fighting this, not through surrender, because surrender implies a surrenderer, but through a kind of exhaustion of the very impulse to be anything other than what you are, something shifts. The suffering doesn't end, but its edge dulls. The confusion doesn't resolve, but you stop needing it to resolve. The dream continues, but you stop being dragged along by it, completely unconscious. You become what Ibn Arabi calls the perfect human, al-insan al-kamil, not perfect in the sense of achieved or complete, but perfect in the sense of being a perfect mirror, reflecting exactly what is without distortion, without the desperate need to make it into something else. And in that mirroring, God sees himself clearly, not as separate from you, but as you. You become the place where the real recognizes its own reality through form. You become conscious imagination, imagination that knows its imagination, and precisely through that knowing becomes transparent to the real that imagines it. You are still a dream, but now you're a lucid dream. You are still a shadow, but now you're a shadow that knows the light casting it. You are still imagination, but now you're imagination in service of the Imagineer rather than imagination, lost in its own apparent independence. This is not a happy ending. Ibn Arabi doesn't offer those. This is simply what is, the dark, beautiful, terrible truth of existence that most people spend their lives avoiding. You are not who you think you are. The world is not what you think it is. Reality is not accessible to you because you are not separate from reality enough to access it. You are reality's dream of separation. And the only thing that can happen is for the dream to recognize itself, not to end, but to become lucid, not to escape, but to see through. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all there is. Maybe the entire spiritual path, all the seeking and suffering and questioning, leads only to this: your imagination. You've always been imagination. You'll always be imagination. And that's not a problem to solve, but a reality to inhabit. Not a prison to escape, but a nature to recognize. Not a limitation to transcend, but a truth to surrender into. Not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of finally stopping the exhausting effort to be what you're not. Ibn Arabi sits in Damascus in the 13th century, writing all of this down, trying to map the infinite, trying to explain the unexplainable, trying to use imagination to reveal that everything is imagination. And 8 centuries later, you sit where you are reading or hearing these words, and something in you recognizes something. Not understanding, not agreement, just a distant sense that maybe, possibly terrifyingly, this is true, that maybe you have been asleep, that maybe this is a dream. that maybe you are not what you think you are. And in that moment of recognition, nothing changes, and everything changes. The dream continues. The shadow remains. The wave still rises and falls. But something knows, not you, because you're part of what's being known, but through you as you, the real, knows itself once more. And in that knowing, the cosmic game continues. The divine mirror reflects, the imagination imagines, and you, who are not you, who are nothing but a temporary form of the infinite, you continue, forever dying and being reborn at every instant, forever neither real nor unreal, forever the barzakh, the sacred in-between, the place where God meets himself in the darkness and recognizes his own light. This is not the end. There is no end. This is just another moment in the infinite dream, another word in the divine breath, another form in the endless imagination. And you, reading this, hearing this, thinking about this, you are the current manifestation of that endless process. The question is not whether you'll wake up. The question is whether you'll recognize that you're already awake and dreaming at the same time, that reality and illusion are not opposites, but the same thing seen from different angles, that you are both the prisoner and the prison, both the seeker and what's being sought, both the question and the answer that cannot be spoken. Ibn Arabi offers no comfort. He offers only truth. And the truth is dark and strange and ultimately unknowable, because the one trying to know it is made of the same imaginal substance as what's being known. You cannot step outside the dream to see it objectively. You cannot escape the shadow to examine it from the light. You cannot cease being imagination to understand what imagination is. You can only be what you are, with increasing or decreasing awareness, with increasing or decreasing lucidity, with increasing or decreasing surrender to the fundamental condition. You are not real in the way you think, and you never will be, and that's exactly as it should be. So stop trying, stop seeking, stop hoping for a final answer, or a permanent awakening, or a stable truth. Let yourself be the unstable, uncertain, imaginal thing you are. Let yourself be the dream that knows it's dreaming but continues anyway. Let yourself be the sacred in between, neither light nor darkness, neither being nor nothingness, but forever the barzakh, where God plays hide and seek with himself. That's your nature. That's your freedom, that's your prison, and it's all the same thing seen from inside the infinite mirror of divine self-knowing. This is Ibn Arabi's message, delivered across 8 centuries. You are deceived. Your mind lives in illusion, and there is no escape because the escape itself would be another illusion. There is only this, the recognition of what you are, the acceptance of what you cannot change, and the strange, dark peace that comes from finally stopping the war against your own imaginal nature. You are a shadow. Be a shadow that knows the light. You are a dream. Be a lucid dream. You are imagination. Be conscious imagination. That's all. That's everything. That's the terrible, beautiful truth that your mind cannot accept, but your deeper being has always known. And now you know it too. Not with certainty. There is no certainty in the realm of imagination, but with recognition. And recognition in Ibn Arabi's universe is the only form of knowledge that matters, because recognition doesn't add anything to what you are. It simply removes the veil of forgetting, and beneath that veil, there is no you and no reality and no separation. There is only the one being, imagining itself into infinite forms, including the form reading or hearing these words right now, wondering if any of this is true, and in that wondering, revealing itself to itself once more in the eternal game that has no beginning and no end, only endless iterations of the same cosmic gesture, being pretending to be becoming, the real pretending to be unreal, God pretending to forget he's God, and then remembering again and again and again, forever. That's the truth. That's the deception. That's what Ibn Arabi saw with devastating clarity and tried to express in ways that would shatter comfortable illusions. And if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, if something in you is resisting or confused or disturbed, good. That means you're actually hearing what's being said. The comfortable teachings are the ones that leave you asleep. The true teaching is the one that disturbs your sleep enough that you might, just might, become a little more lucid in the dream you're already having, not awake, not free, just a bit more aware that you're imagining everything, including yourself, including this awareness, including the distinction between imagining and being imagined. And with that awareness, you continue, because that's what imagination does. It continues imagining. And you, whoever or whatever you think you are one of its infinite expressions, here for a moment, gone in a moment, and never actually separate from the imaginative process itself. Welcome to the dream. Welcome to the shadow. Welcome to the sacred barzakh, where everything you think is real is revealed to be imagination, and everything you think is imagination is revealed to be the only reality there is. This is Ibn Arabi's gift and his curse, the truth that sets no one free because there's no one to free, the knowledge that liberates by revealing there's nothing to liberate, the awakening that shows you were never asleep in the way you thought. You were dreaming that you were awake, and now perhaps you're beginning to dream that you're dreaming. It's not much, but in the economy of infinite imagination, it's everything.